China supplies weapons to over 53 nations, most of which are not markets for big arms suppliers such as the United States or Russia. China's arms exports find significant markets in countries such as Pakistan, Myanmar, and Bangladesh, as well as various nations across Africa and the Middle East. But just like its overall economy, not everything is going well when it comes to weapons exports. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, or SIPRI, China's arms shipments fell 7.8% between 2016 and 2020 when compared to the preceding 5-year period. Its global market share has shrunk from 5.6% to 5.2%. In this video, Defense Updates analyzes why Chinese weapons exports are declining significantly. Let's get into the details. Several countries that have purchased Chinese weapons are now in a precarious position. Myanmar reportedly inked a deal in early 2016 to procure 16 JF-17s from China at a cost of $25 million each. The first batch of 6 aircraft were delivered to the Myanmar Air Force in 2018. Most of the newly acquired Chinese and Pakistan-made JF-17 fighter jets that the Myanmar regime has taken delivery of have been grounded due to technical malfunctions. The JF-17 has structural cracks and other technical issues. The radar has low accuracy, and there are also issues with the weapon mission management computer. Niger has acquired 9 Chengdu J-7 interceptors from China. It's a license-built version of the Soviet Mikoyan-Gurevich or MiG-21. 7 out of 9 available Chengdu J-7 fighter jets had to be sent to China for deep maintenance. Pakistan, China's all-weather ally, also faced issues with Chinese-made Navy warships. The F-22P frigates have several technical problems, such as engine degradation, defective sensors, and the missile system's incapability to lock on the target. Bangladesh reported issues with the K-8W jet planes it bought from China. These planes encountered problems in firing the ammunition loaded on them. Moreover, Bangladesh expressed concerns over problems in the China-produced short-range air defense systems and 2 Ming-class submarines. Cindy Zheng, a researcher at the think tank RAND Corporation, said, "China attracts customers for its military equipment with curate pricing and financing, but there are hidden costs, especially when gear malfunctions." The researcher added, "A lack of technological compatibility with the Chinese military equipment can prove particularly expensive." As per Alexander Vuving, professor at the Daniel K. Inouye Asia-Pacific Center for Security Studies, the topic of problems in Chinese military gear has been emphasized. He said, "China-made weapons are not just technologically inferior, they also remain untested on the battlefield." Colin Koh, a maritime security analyst based in Singapore, stated that importer countries are concerned about the absence of combat testing for most Chinese hardware. Another difficulty is political tension with China in the case of integration with non-Chinese systems. Andrei Serbin, a geopolitical intelligence expert and director of the Argentine think tank CRIES, stated, "Many countries acquiring Chinese military equipment for the first time are finding that certification standards are lower than in the West, where there are standards of excellence shared by NATO countries which endorse the certification of technologies." Chinese weapons are mostly reverse-engineered from Russian platforms. Over the years, China has copied several Russian weapon platforms with total disregard for intellectual property rights and contractual obligations. The Chinese have often bought limited quantities and then reverse-engineered the weapons. For example, Russians claim that the Chinese began violating licensing terms almost immediately by installing their own avionics on flankers, by replicating the jet under the names J-11 and J-11B. The deal fell apart after about half of the Su-27s were sent to China. The impact of these copies is so large that some quarters of the Russian power circle objected to the sale of S-400 to China. The deal was eventually sealed after Russian analysts felt that S-400 was too complicated to copy. Russia expressed its frustration publicly regarding this aspect when Yevgeny Levadny, Rostek's chief of intellectual property rights, called out China. He said, "China alone has copied aircraft engines, Sukhoi planes, deck jets, air defense systems, portable air defense missiles, and analogs of the Pantsir medium-range surface-to-air systems. But it's not surprising that when real R&D is missing, the products coming out from China are not top of the line." It's clear that the preferences for Chinese arms in these countries has been influenced not only by economic considerations, but also by political factors. Many of these nations have strained relationships with leading Western arms exporters like the United States, France, and Germany. In addition to cost savings, they also receive other incentives such as gifts, donations, and flexible payment options when procuring Chinese arms. Furthermore, Chinese arms are often associated with fewer end-use restrictions and less stringent monitoring compared to exports from other competitors. This aspect is particularly appealing to customers who have limited access to alternative sources of military equipment due to political or economic constraints. But weapons platforms are not similar to consumer electronics. Their reliability and performance can mean the difference between life and death. Chinese armaments have failed to perform as promised. China's arms exports have experienced a decline attributable to issues with quality as well as inconsistent and weak performance. It means that the Chinese military is also likely to be armed with these substandard weapons, which could be a major hindrance if it gets involved in any confrontation.
Subscribe for more videos like this. Hit the like button if you find the video interesting, and kindly provide your feedback in the comment section. This will help us improve.